define your level of success, what that means for you each and every day, that actually like frees us up to the second part, which is don't compare yourself to somebody else's life.
Hello, everyone. Elle is here today on our Empowered Global Women in Business podcast. And I have a special guest all the way from Texas, Anita Anello.
Yes. Yeah, Elle, so nice to be here with you.
Thank you. It's great to have you, and I'm excited and looking forward for this conversation. This topic is, so dear to my heart. So I am excited. Before we jump into it, I'd love to introduce Anita. So Anita is a speaker, an author, and a highly sought after consultant to 100 million or billion-dollar companies. Anita used to be a successful corporate consultant for big businesses. Then she turned her attention to homeschooling her kids before launching her own profitable business. About 2 years ago, her husband's health took a drastic turn, which resulted in an unexpected hospital stay and a job loss, all in the same week. The household was going through a rough patch, to be sure. The stress levels were high and finances were tight. All that changed when she discovered how to do 6 and 7 figure days using virtual events. Called by industry experts the queen of coaching and consulting, and with 20 plus years of helping 100 million to $1 billion companies increase their impact and income. She's consulted and coached over 10,000 companies and has been a featured speaker on financial summits, numerous podcasts, featured author for her Debt-Free Story in the Zone magazine, and featured speaker on TCA Live 2024, the Copywriting Academy event with Ray Edwards. Clients pay $250,000 for just one VIP day with Anita, where she consults businesses on how to scale their company exponentially. When you listen to her teach, you will immediately recognize that she's one of the most masterful communicators, strategic problem solvers, and teachers you have ever heard. Anita has a unique ability to hear what's not being said and help her clients use wisdom to have the breakthrough they desire. Welcome, Anita.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's so sweet to hear all that out of somebody else's mouth. That's awesome.
Beautiful. Well, I'm excited for this conversation. And one of the questions I like to usually, ask, what led you to this path, doing this work?
Thank you. That's a good question. So, I kind of wrestled my way up, worked my way up the corporate ladder, and in that wrestling, ended up kind of at the what I say, like at the top of the ladder, but feeling a little bit choked out. Like I had really, I can remember it as if it was like yesterday, feeling like I climbed to this success. I had the money and the title and the accolades and the stuff, but I was not happy. I was really not happy. I wasn't happy in my marriage. I wasn't happy in my work life. I wasn't happy in just in starting to raise a young family. And it wasn't because anything that was going on external, it was all going on inside my head and my heart. And so I just wrestled with this, and I would go to my husband and talk about it. And at that time, I made significantly more than him. And I would say, babe, like, I'm just struggling. Like, we were starting to have babies together, and my mama's heart was just crying and reaching out to want to be able to intentionally raise my own kids full time. And he would, I mean, really, like, he meant the best, but my husband would say things like, you can't quit. And I heard this over and over and over again. And it caused us really to have a lot of friction in our marriage in those days, because when you say words like you can't to me, like that kind of language for my personality style is almost like fighting words. And so I was like, don't tell me I can't. I'm going to figure this out. Right.
Yeah.
So we went on a journey in that time, and it took about 8 years. So it was not overnight. I don't recommend anybody like up and quit their job. That causes more stress that you could ever imagine. But we went on a journey for about the next 8 years of setting things up in our household financially so that when the opportunity came, and it did, I was able to retire at a really young age and come home and homeschool our growing family full time.
What a wonderful story. Thank you for sharing. So in that process and building your business,
Mhm.
and I know we have a similar backgrounds that we share, being in a corporate world, and
Yeah.
what you are describing, I remember, feeling that feeling.
Oh,
So interesting. But while, all of this is a journey. Now we're speaking about it so shortly, right? But really, it just took, I can imagine, so many steps and lessons. What are some of the biggest, or maybe one of the biggest lessons in your journey of building your own business as a business
Mm.
woman and a mother? Um, what are some of the biggest lessons that you learned that you would share with our listeners today?
Yeah. So one big thing when I went from the corporate world, then I transitioned to homeschooling my kids full time. And then about 5 years ago, started my own business at the high ticket level. Um, One thing that I would say, kind of a lesson that I learned is I guess I have a couple in mind. Number one is I wish when I was a little bit younger, I would have been able to like lean into the season that I was in when I was in it. I have a tendency to think like, well, when things happen later, then I'll be happy instead of, and as I get older, I get a little bit better at this. I'm practicing, just presently enjoying the success that I already have. So
Mhm.
that's kind of like two things. It's leaning in to recognize the season I and because don't we know as moms, I might actually cry when I say this. I think of the things that my kids needed and I wanted to do for them when they were babies and then toddlers and then our early years of homeschooling versus where we are now of having teenagers in the house, having graduated one from homeschooling and she's off to college and still homeschooling another teen. Don't we know like those seasons are very different? And so when I say acknowledge the season that you're in and then just define your level of success, what that means for you each and every day, that actually like frees us up to the second part, which is don't compare yourself to somebody else's life. There isn't there isn't anyone out there, and I'm going to put this in the framework of God because that's what the framework that I use for my life. For anybody who's listening, I just want to honor you. Just be you exactly where you're at. If you have a different framework for life, that's totally cool. But here where I'm saying in this is that if the framework of my life is God's called me to homeschool my kids and intentionally raise my own kids and have a healthy marriage and not lose those things while I'm growing a profitable business, well, then I'm called to actually pay attention to those things. And instead of comparing myself to all my girlfriends and
Yeah.
a life looks different if you're a stay-at-home mom or a corporate mom or an entrepreneur mom or somewhere in between any of those categories. And so if I can divorce myself from the comparison of feeling like somebody's husband is, I don't know, better than mine, that's not true. Somebody's life is easier than mine, that's not true. Somebody's bank account is different than mine. I mean, that might be true, but who cares, right? I mean, right. So there's some of those things. Then as you transition, as I've transitioned into the entrepreneurial space, one of the best things that my husband said, so he previously had said, honey, you can't do these things. And that was like, oh, that like stirred up a fire inside of me, Elle, that just could not be extinguished when I started on the path of I had owned a software company before and I knew that I wanted to go back and own my own business again and have that time and money freedom. So one thing that he said to me, I remember distinctly, it was a couple of years ago. We sat on our couch upstairs in our loft and I was like, should I do this or this or this? I had started some businesses and things were going amazing, but not, I mean, they were going okay, but not amazing. And he said, you know what, honey? I don't know the answer to that, but I know you're going to figure it out. And I was like, oh, that's like empowering language to me. When my personality style hears, I support you, I love you, I don't have the answer for you, I don't need to answer it for you, and I know you're going to figure it out. I was like, oh, it was like a breath of fresh air. And that actually sent me on a journey from closing down one business that wouldn't be that great to actually starting the business that I currently have now, which is really serving entrepreneurs to create 6 and 7 figure days in their business.
Well, beautiful. Yeah, I love that. That comparison is so interesting how that happens.
Yeah.
It's in anything. Yeah, as long as we're staying in our lane, in our own lane, and focusing on that, it's just so amazing. There's so much depth that comes to it. It's yeah, so interesting how we do that, right? Okay,
One,
so
one thing, one thing I think about that is sometimes I wonder if I'm comparing myself to somebody else, is that really just me either what I'm thinking out loud is it me just distracting myself from what I'm really supposed to be doing? Like if I know that I know that I know that I'm supposed to take this next step, but then I get caught up in any form of distraction,
Yeah.
binging on Netflix. I love Netflix. It's amazing, but doing too much of that or comparing myself to somebody else. I think what happens is I get trapped in my mind in this little whirlwind. And really what I need to do is just set that aside and go after the things that I'm doing. I don't know. What about you? Have you found that to be the case? Is that it's actually like it almost could be like a new clue for us as women to be like, oh my gosh, now I'm paying attention more to, I'm distracted over here with this thing, but I really just need to be taking the next step in my life or my business. And I'm just not doing that. Sometimes the language, it's not negative for me, so don't hear it that way, is sometimes I realize like, oh shoot, I'm just not being obedient to what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely relate to that. And yeah, I agree. For me, it's also the clarity.
Mm,
Or before I didn't have the clarity. So this outside voices will influence my direction. And then I
mm,
would question, oh, why don't I have this? Because somebody else has this. But
mm,
when I had a clarity on this is exactly what I want. If we talked about money, this is exactly how much I want. If we talked about, this is exactly where I want to live and exactly the views, the what I want to see, where I want to go. When I decided that this is me, truly me, and
mhm,
having clarity and focus, that's actually what helped me also to not be in that comparison on, because I know
mhm.
exactly what I'm after. Um, and before, because we all get to our own goals, different journeys, different lessons, different paths, and when we hear different things, talk differently to us. Um, yeah, and so that's kind of, and I totally agree with you that it's so interesting how that happens. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. When you listen to any high level entrepreneur, they all say this, they all say something similar of picture in your mind where you want to go. Don't worry about the how. Just keep picturing in your mind what the goal is. Okay. If I want to stand on a stage and get an award for something in my business, if I have a revenue goal, if I want to go to a place and travel, as soon as I start, the more I can meditate on that, the more I can focus on that in my mind, which is what you're talking about, the more actually I'm able to produce those results in my outward life, because I'm just focusing on the goal. And I love what you said about being able to have clarity, because that is incredibly important for all of us to have. You don't have to know all the steps how to get there, but you do have to have the clarity of sight, say, this is the direction that I want to go. And then actually the steps will come to you. There's a phenomenal book called Who Not How, by Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan. And they talk about that process of you focus on the end results and the how will come. And the how doesn't always, like as Americans, we're always taught, I have this goal that I want. How the next question in our mind is, how am I going to work that out? I want to add 6 figures to my business in a month or a day or a year, whatever that looks like for you. And then we're taught in America, okay, how am I going to work that out? It's actually the book, the whole premise of the book is that's the wrong question. We're to find a who to fill in those gaps so that we don't actually have to do everything. And that makes the journey as an entrepreneur so much better, so much more fun, so much easier. And then we actually stay in the lane where we're the expert. And that also creates a lot of freedom in our life.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. It's so important, yeah, because then the money definitely comes, everything comes, but the core of it is really it's aligned to who I am.
Mhm.
Why did I create this, right? I love that. So thank you for sharing the book. I made a note on that. Talking about what's holding women back
Mhm.
from in business, women building businesses back from creating high-end offers in
Mhm.
your experience.
So there's really two big components of it. And I'm going to break down those two big components. There's internal resistance that I have in my mind. I'll use me as an example. So somebody may have heard in the intro, oh my gosh, she serves like $100 million companies, $1 billion companies. Yes, I have those clients. What we're talking about is for an entrepreneur that may be stuck at like 10 to 20K a month and wants to be able to break through that and either do 6 and 7 figure months or days in their business. So let's reframe that. The other thing that was mentioned in the beginning is, yes, I do VIP clients at 250K for the VIP day. What we're going to talk about right now is is a slightly different offer that's not available today, but really it's being able to help somebody to really like break through just like that of what's going on. So there's internal objections and external objections. An internal objection, Elle, might be internally, I've just heard this lady Anita say, it's possible that I can make as much money in a month or a day as I have had, as I've previously made in a year. And my mind is going, and what's happening is internally, there's a question going on that your brain's trying to answer that says, is that possible for me? I hear what she's saying. I hear that she's talked about it. Now, let me just preface it. I know in the world of the internet business, we all hear all the time, and it drives me nuts. So, is that you could be a millionaire overnight. Now, it is possible to have those revenue events in your business. It's totally possible, but just can we know, like, it actually has, in many of those businesses, it's taken some time, like it's taken some time, some practice. And so when I stumbled across this system of being able to really create 6 and 7 figure months and then days in business, it was like, like something completely unlocked. And then I had those questions too. Internally, I was like, ooh, can I do this? Wait a minute. Is it possible for me? So there's some internal stuff that's going on that has to be resolved. The best way to understand how to resolve that is you really start asking yourself a question on a daily basis. Am I a pro or am I an amateur? So there's a guy by the name of Stephen Pressfield that's written a book, and he talks about, and actually the other one that talks about it is Price Pritchard. There's a book called U Squared. Tiny little book, being probably one of the most powerful books you read in your entrepreneurial life. And what it does is it talks about the fact that if you're going to be a pro, see here, let me give you some examples of what pros do. Even if the revenue in my business isn't where I want it to be, pros still show up every single day. Even if I had a client experience, bless you, even if I had a client experience that didn't work out amazing, or somebody on I don't know, one of my social platforms totally said something negative about something that I posted, a teaching opportunity that I had. None of that actually matters. When I'm a pro, I show up no matter what. So it's a mindset that says that pros show up and they do the hard work. They do the reps. They have the sequence. They know business is about having the right steps done in the right sequence. Pros understand what the right steps are and the right sequence is, and they go invest in themselves to be able to stretch farther than they could go on their own. And they just keep showing up over and over and over and over again, no matter what. So pros stay in the game. So if you're listening right now and you're thinking, hey, that's me, then like tap yourself on the chest and be like, I'm a pro. I'm totally a pro. I'm going after this. So amateurs, on the other hand, and this is not who we're talking to in this group of this audience for sure. Amateurs are the ones that like, oh, it gets too hard, I give up, or it gets overwhelming, I'm stuck. Amateur is to somebody that like uses the distraction method that we talked about earlier. I'm over here, I'm doing the things, I'm not getting the results. I'm either focused on the wrong thing, I don't have the clarity. Amateurs let all of those things bog them down so heavily that they get so burdened and worry about comparing themselves so much to somebody else that they kind of give up eventually. So again, that's not who we're talking to here. I know that. I honor your audience and where they're at. We're talking to pros here. Pros are the ones that do the thing to be able to show up. Okay, so then the second part is external objections. Now, this is really kind of an interesting thing because the external objection can be something like, I'll just use a common one. So I have this offer to go and connect with this high ticket coach, but she or he charges too much money. I don't have the money. Do you know there's actually a story in scripture? I'm going to relate to the Bible right now. If you don't know the Bible, that's totally fine. But this is really kind of cool. And there's a story in God's word that says that there's a guy named Elisha, and he's talking to a widow. She loses a whole bunch of stuff. The only thing she has left is her son. And she goes to the prophet, like, what am I supposed to do? Like, man of God, what am I supposed to do? And he's like, basically, he gives her the steps for success in business. And the steps are just really simple. He basically says, take inventory of what's in your hand right now. So this is what pros do. we assess what's available right now, what assets we already have, what skill sets we already have, and we go and do something with them, right? So again, if that's you and you're listening, tap yourself on the chest and say, I'm a pro. Then she also goes through the process as in the story, the way that it works itself out. I'm just going to look at some notes so I make sure and get all the things. The next step is he tells her, go and borrow. So in this story, they're talking about filling these jars of oil and all this kind of stuff. That just basically means that they're gathering, they're going, and so she and her sons go out to the whole town. They go and borrow all these jugs. And the story says, the word says that just bring the jugs into your house and then start filling them with the little bit of oil that you have. And what they do is actually really pretty miraculous. They keep filling all the jars over and over and over again. So they went and borrowed more jars and then filled the jars till they were overflowing. Do you know, I had listened to this story in this commentary. This is a story that my mentor had told to me, but and just related it this way. But here's what's kind of cool is if you might want to consider that the jars, if they still brought more jars, she would have had more abundance if she just kept bringing more jars, because it wasn't that the oil stopped because she stopped having jars to fill it in. So the principle is start with what's in your hand, then go and borrow, right? So honor Dave Ramsey, but Dave Ramsey is not speaking to entrepreneurs where he talks about be completely debt free and all that kind of stuff. We're talking about borrow to build assets in our business, borrow to leverage and do more than we can do on our own. That's the framework that I'm coming from. So the next step in the process is then he says, go sell. So you've gathered all this oil, now go sell. So the principle is use what's in your hand, go borrow, and then go sell something. Then actually what's super cool, this is where I totally unlock something for me. The next 2 steps that come after that, so it's 5 steps total, is go and pay off your debt and then live on the rest. So think of what we're talking about here is in business, oftentimes we get so hung up as I want to go this direction, but I don't have the money to do it. Well, go figure it out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm creating my own block. And yet, here's the thing. Nobody buys based on what they need. They buy what they want. So if you want something bad enough, whatever that might be. Now, I'm not talking about go borrow money to go buy a new TV. Let me just be clear on that. I'm talking about buying to be able to increase your leverage, increase assets, increase things in your life so that you can actually take those things that you borrow. And then remember the principles of the story is you go and you borrow, then you sell it, and then you pay off your debt. So there is a debt element there, but then you live on the rest. So think about it. If we put this in money terms, I'm just going to be super simple. I go borrow, I don't know, $1,000. I go do something and make something so I can sell it for, I'm just going to pretend $2,000. Then I go pay off the debt of the $1,000 and then I live on the abundance. I live on what's left over. Can you believe this actually comes from God's word? And so if I'm speaking to somebody who comes from a church background, the reason that I say that and I share that story is because so many people in the United States specifically believe that God's words tells us that we're supposed to be poor. And let me just set somebody free here and say, I love you with all of the Lord. And that is just not true. That's not at all what God's word says for us. And so let me pause right there. That's a lot of information, but can you see how we're talking about? There's some internal stuff that I got to walk through, and there's some external stuff that I want to walk through. Now, maybe you have like a husband that has to approve. I don't, in my household, we don't, my husband always says to me, babe, I trust you. Cause he knows my character and he knows that I'm always going, if I go and borrow for something for the business, I'm always going to go pay it off. And so that's just the relationship that we have. But think of how powerful these teachings are that are going to break off something, some lie we've been believing before. And now it's going to set us free to go do the next thing we're supposed to do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so beautiful. Thank you. Yeah. And how many, it's just that the biggest key is always, it's our minds are so amazing and beautiful, but how many times we're actually stopping ourselves from, oh, I cannot go and borrow. This is too much. That's it. We close that door. We didn't even go into trying to figure that out. How can I get the money to? Yeah, it's so amazing. Or really just visualizing and imagining what's on the other side. What are the elements that must be in a high end offer that
That's a good question. Okay, so let me kind of set the stage for what I'm talking about here. I know in many circles, a high ticket offer is anything over 2K. Okay, so and that's fine. If you're at that spot, that's awesome. Way to go. You've made it out of the 997 offers and you're moving up, and that is amazing. Keep going. In my space, what I'm going to talk about are offers that are over 10K. Okay, and that's kind of like the floor for the world that I live in, is no offers below. So here's one thing that happens a lot. People will say internally, so here's another internal objection. I can't possibly charge, Anita, I can't possibly charge 10K for my offer, because then they have like a question of worth or value. Can I just say right now, no one, you are not charging your worth, your value at all, because you're amazing. You are priceless. That's what God's word says. If you believe in him or not, I believe that for you. You're priceless. You're a daughter or son of the Most High God. So we're not talking about charging your own worth. What we are doing is we're assessing the fact that, how many books have you read? I have, you can't see it in the screen here, but I have books and books and bookshelves of books all over my house, because our household, we are avid readers. So I've read thousands of books. I've spent thousands of dollars and many years in higher education. I have 20 plus years of experience. I have, so if you start taking inventory of the experiences that you've walked through, the education that you have, the skill sets that you have from any form of your career, even if it's not working for somebody else, don't we know? Can we just get a little bit of an amen, or like a Baptist nod that says, even as moms, we have skills that we have used to raise our kids that are valuable in the marketplace. Exactly. Maybe not organizing play dates, but let me just tell you, like,
that in itself, the moms themselves is already.
I know. So first step is you kind of take an inventory of what your background looks like and write it out. Like, don't just do it in your mind. Really, I'm super practical and tactical. And I will say, write these things out. How many years have you spent in your education? How many years of experience do you have in what you're really good at? I'm not just talking about what you're capable about doing. I always see this kind of like as like a funnel. At the top, we're capable of doing hundreds of things, but I'm talking about what's the combination of what I love to do, what I can do, and I do better than anybody else, right? When I really narrow down, if we had more time, I'd explain that a little bit more, but really like that secret sauce that makes you and differentiates yourself from the marketplace. But you basically just kind of start taking an inventory of what did it take in order for you to get there. Then when you also offer high ticket, in the high ticket space, there's 5 elements that need to be part of every single offer. Now, don't make the mistake, this total side note, don't make the mistake of saying, I charge now all this money, but it takes me like 12 months to deliver it. That's not the definition of a high ticket offer. That's not what we're talking about here. Because now let's say you had like a 25K offer. I just coached some clients on this right now, and they're like, Anita, we've been working through a 25K offer. And I was like, that's awesome. And then they said, but we're going to take 12 months to deliver it. And I was like, that is not awesome, because now it's you've basically taken your income and spread it out over 12 months. And so let me just clarify, that's not what we're talking about here. But anyway, so there's some elements that need to be part of the high ticket offer. There's an event that's usually there. When in my space, in the kind of like the worlds that I swim around in, we talk about all the time, immersion causes conversion. So there's typically, the first one is an event that goes along. You have something that is a selling event and something that's a delivery event. In the delivery event, you're having that immersion that causes conversion. So you're bringing people together either virtually or in person, and you're helping them to like take off like rockets. So they get such transformation that happens in the transaction, and then the immersion that happens in the conversion that happens in the immersion by being together. And they actually walk away, not with more notes. They walk away with something done in their business that you promised that you would do that. And that's what we do in our business when we're helping entrepreneurs hit those 6 and 7 figure months and then days. The second thing is you have experts involved in your offer. So I don't know why, as entrepreneurs, we either believe or we've been told, or we just tell ourselves this lie that we have to do everything ourselves. That's not the case. Not in my world at all. We invite other experts to come along, both in creating and sharing what the offer is all about, but also in delivering the results. Because don't we know, like, I can't be good at everything. I
No.
can pretend in my mind that I have to know everything about copywriting, then I have to know everything about sales funnels, then I have to know everything about sales. No, I focus on being able to create high ticket offers in the virtual masterclass format and challenges. And that's what I'm an expert in. And so when I do my delivery events, I bring in experts to deliver on other components that are going to help my clients be super successful. Again, we're not taking more notes in these offers and creating more like academic awareness. We're really genuinely creating such value for our clients that they take our systems and then they go for it. They're able to actually run with it and implement it in their business. The other thing that you can have is an enhanced opportunity. High ticket buyers love enhanced opportunities. Those could look like I don't know, a networking dinner or wine and cheese event. Maybe you have a celebrity that comes in, maybe a photo opportunity. I don't know. The list can go on and on in terms of enhanced opportunities. But what I'm laying out here, these are what all high ticket buyers, so not as us as sellers, these are what high ticket buyers are expecting and they're looking for in high ticket offers. They're looking for all of these elements. The next thing that you have is you have an execution element of that. And that essentially means there's either a done for you or a done with you component. So again, my clients walk out of the event and say, I've got this done. I've got the funnel built. I've got the copy written. I'm ready to actually do something right here, right now, without waiting. Isn't it so awful when we buy into programs and products and courses and read books, and then it takes us like months, or dare I say years, to implement those steps? This is not what I'm talking about here. Like, let's get in and get going, make some money and go bless people, pay off our debt, and then go bless people along the way. Okay, I'm just going to look at my notes because, okay, the other thing that we have is an experience. So in high ticket, buyers love experience. They love to be able to have an experience that helps them with the transformation. So that might be a dinner. That might be you have a special meeting place. You do retreats. So maybe in one of your offers, you have I don't know, I know a good friend of mine, she does it's a ladies, it's an offer in the, oh, how do I say, in the relationship space, where she helps ladies build their self-confidence, improve, their interaction in other areas of our life, I'll say. And then it culminates in a retreat where they meet in Paris, and the ladies do, like, they ride motorcycles at night around the streets of Paris, that kind of stuff. Like, it can be whatever here's what I would say: have it be something that you love, and that your client, and then your clients will love it. So
Yeah.
it's not, if I don't want to be on a yacht, then my experience should not include a yacht for my
Right.
buyers, because
Yeah.
I won't like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But those,
Yes, I love that. I love
yeah,
that.
so those
I
are basically the
yeah.
elements.
Oh my gosh, I love those elements. I feel like we could go on and on and on
Yeah.
this topic because it's just both of us so passionate about it, and I learned so much and from you. Thank you, Anita, for covering
Sure.
those elements, and so important. And how many times we undervalue or devalue
Mm,
ourselves. I love, love, love how you mentioned words at the very beginning. You just let
yeah.
me just say that before everything else is so important. I love how you brought that a reminder to our listeners. Thank you, because
Yeah.
it's so important to how many times I know I've done that. I forgot how many the courses, the books we read, the information. I love reading between my audiobooks and the actual books. And so how many times we devalue ourselves, we
Hmm.
forget those things, we right away go to objections, or we right away go to that lack of. I love that you mentioned that. Thank you. Beautiful, beautiful. Please connect our listeners with Anita. As you can hear, she is amazing, powerhouse in all the knowledge, in all the wisdom to share with you. I know you have an event that you wanted to share with us as well.
Yes. The event, just to speak it out, the name of the landing page you go to is eliteentrepreneurs.vip/home. And then you can see whenever the next one is that's running. Come join us anytime. Love to be able to meet you and greet you and teach you more. There's so much that we can cover on this topic. And Elle and I are just really scratching the surface here of what's possible in the high ticket space and what's possible for you and your business to be able to expand and go wherever it is that you want to go, because everything that you want is on the other side of a high ticket offer.
Okay, beautiful. So we can, listeners, you can go to that link and schedule, register for the day that works for you. And then I'm sure there will be some additional information how to connect with Anita. And with that, I'm going to move us along to the final kind of section of our conversation. Okay, first one is your favorite book name is?
Oh, my favorite book name right now. I am reading The No BS Guide to Marketing to the Affluent.
Awesome. Beach or mountains?
Beach every time.
Favorite international destination to visit?
That's a good question. I've been to Zurich and that was amazing, and I want to go to Italy. So it's a two-part answer.
Yeah, love it. Summer or winter?
Summer, 100%. I'm a beach girl and a summer girl.
I love it. Okay, and the final one is things that you have discovered about yourself recently.
Oh gosh. I discovered that I'm more powerful than I previously thought I was. And it's okay to be kind and gentle with myself.
Oh, beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you for playing. I love it.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I love those questions. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yes. So much fun, always. And, I just love listening and hearing all these different perspectives. But thank you for being on our podcast today, Anita. This was so wonderful. And we will post links to how to connect with Anita in both of our YouTube, if you are listening to and watching us on YouTube, or on our podcast as well.
Awesome. So I just want to say one last thing. Elle, I really want to honor you and what you're doing. You are making a difference in thousands of men and women's lives. And I just want to honor that in you. The way that you show up every day is so authentic. It's so beautiful. The image that you have, the desire that you have to be able to do this show and do the business that you have and help ladies and I'm sure gentlemen too along the way, but really help us as women, moms, entrepreneurs, wives, mothers, all of those labels that we wear. I just want to honor what you're doing and the way that you're setting people free and helping them understand that we can actually have both time and money freedom in our lives. And so I bless you in that. And I thank you so much. You're so powerful and so beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anita. Thank you. This was our Empowered Global Women in Business podcast. And I'm again thanking Anita for being here with us. Thank you for our listeners. And we will see you on our next show.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.